Less than 2 years ago, Camille Paglia busted onto the scene with the publication of Sexual Personae, Art and Decadence from Nefertiti to Emily Dickinson. Since then, she has established herself as a thorn in the side of academia, feminism, you name it. She's been called an academic Rottweiler, an Italian-American Joan Rivers, and she's here to talk about her new book, a collection of essays, Sex, Art, and American Culture. Welcome to Imprint.
Thank you very much.
Now, what's this business about Madonna, the future of feminism? Come on.
I've been a great Madonna fan since the start, you see, back in 1983 and 84. And I've been defending her from the very beginning, but she's like kind of my double, you know. We're both these Italian-American dominatrixes. We both identify strongly with gay men and drag queens. And I think we both have discovered the latent paganism and pornography in Italian Catholicism.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to quote a little bit from one of your essays, Venus of the Radio Waves. Now, let me. Madonna's command of massive, resonant bass lines, which she heard in the funky dance clubs of New York and Detroit, has always impressed me. As an Italian Catholic, Madonna uses them liturgically. Like me, she sensed the buried pagan religiosity in disco.
Yes, I've been following the bass line since James Brown invented it. Oh, I'm a great disco queen.
What I'm getting at here is that you use academic language to explain something that you know perfectly well she cannot.
Yes. I believe that Madonna is at her weakest when she tries to explain herself in words.
In fact, you go so far as to say several times, referring to an interview with her on MTV, wrong answer.
Right.
You would like to be her spokesperson.
Well, yes, because I think that she does her deepest thinking, as I say in an upcoming review of her rather shoddy new book, does her deepest thinking in music and dance. I think that music and dance are the oldest kind of thinking through the body, through the sensory language of the body. Mm-hmm. I think that, that the word obsession of current feminism or of current academia, that's part of the problem that we're in right now.
But you're very big about words. You certainly put a lot of value on words because you're always talking about how, for example, modern feminists are simply not educated enough. They haven't read The Dead Boring White Males. They haven't got enough command of the words.
That's right. So. Yes, at the same time that I seem to be a word fanatic, I'm highly verbal, as you can see, I believe that all of my deepest ideas, my most original thinking is coming from a level beneath the level of words. What I'm doing is simply translating into words my actual sensory impressions.
This is your id talking.
Oh, the id, yes, but the language of the body, sort of it's like Freud's idea of polymorphous perversity.
Okay, Whore of Babylon. Is Madonna our Whore of Babylon?
Oh, she is, and I love it.
What does that mean?
Well, you see, this is really the great goddess figure of antiquity that St. Augustine banished, which Judeo-Christianity thought was buried forever. But you see, I believe that paganism has erupted 3 times since the Dark Ages. I think it was at the Renaissance, at Romanticism, and now with popular culture. I view popular culture with all its most unpalatable aspects as an eruption of paganism.
You must have loved some of those scenes in the Doors movie by Oliver Stone. Did you see it? Pure Dionysian pagan
There
ritual.
were some wonderful scenes there. I particularly like the body language, Val Kilmer, but I deplore, as a Doors fan, the way the other members of the Doors were treated as if they were mere ancillaries to Jim Morrison. I adore Jim Morrison. He was extraordinarily influential on me in college, but those musicians in the Doors, every member, a virtuoso magician, they were, oh my God.
But what I was really referring to was, of course, the concert sequences, which were treated like so many pagan bonfire burning festivals.
True, but I think that a little bit of the audience seemed more like Led Zeppelin's 70s rather than like authentically 60s. Well, that's fine, but I'm saying that the audience certainly changed. We all know that Led Zeppelin was a pivotal moment when the audience suddenly, for heavy metal, let's say, became male, and you got a fragmentation of the rock audience. I'm very nostalgic for that moment in the 60s when everyone was listening to the same albums month after month after month.
Tell me about your identification with rock and roll. Why is it so exciting? You've said something obviously about the physical, the dark physical attraction and so on.
I believe I'm the first rock and roll intellectual. I think that people who like my writing hear in it the hard hammering rhythms of rock. People who dislike me are followers of Suzanne Vega or Sinead O'Connor, and so on.
Well, you just don't like that she tore up a picture of the Pope.
Oh, no. Sinead O'Connor is completely a robot brain. She has messages. She's like a Victorian. Okay, she has messages which she slaps onto art like labels. She is the opposite of Madonna.
Oh, unlike you.
No, because actually I'm very driven by instinct and by intuition. I believe in astrology and ESP and all kinds of like madcap things. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me talk a little bit more about one of your the things that you loathe is post-structuralism. You talk about postmodernist academics who you believe have contributed from France, imported to America, destroyed.
Parasites.
Okay, one of the things that we've found on this show, we've had a number of these post-structuralists, and we found them sometimes to be garbled, sometimes their language is impenetrable, yes, but their fascination with pop culture is not unlike your own. They totally identify with pop culture. I have learned more about what drives, why rock and roll can be important, why shopping malls are interesting places to be, why advertising is the locus for the modern
They slap
way of
abstractions on top of experience. We do not need Paris to explain an American and North American phenomenon. Oh, please. They're all poseurs. I'm going to drive them into the sea.
You don't like Jacques Derrida?
I despise him and all his followers.
Okay. Tell me something, for folks who still, I think, after all this time, are confused about what post-structuralism really is. In the simplest terms, how do you see it, and why has it done damage to our understanding of literature and academic studies?
What's happened, basically, you see, I feel that my entire generation of the 60s, the generation most influenced by pop culture, did not go on in the graduate schools. And what you had were these 50s people obsessed with words who fell completely under the sway of the school of Saussure. They need Derrida to explode their own word fetishism. Well, we don't need that. Okay, we who grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix and watching foreign films and watching Antonioni and so on, we did not need Derrida. You know, the most hilarious thing now, the new Foucault biography, it's hilarious, okay, how Foucault went to California and had LSD on the edge of a cliff and went to the S&M bars in San Francisco, and isn't he open, isn't he wonderful? Well, this just proves my point, okay, the American 60s had it all, and those people in France, you know, they had to come to us on their knees.
I wish you could give me another specific example, though, so people could understand. What has it done to literature? How has it
It's absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling, because what it's done is made people cool, ironic, cynical, hanging back, and rooting everything in art through a priori, you know, abstractions. I hate that. The whole revolution of the 60s was about breaking through all false abstraction and bringing art together with emotion. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm doing. There's no one as emotional as I am among the leading critics. I'm Italian.
Self-evident. There was an article in Harper's Magazine recently, you and Neil Postman, a famous critic of television culture and so on, going at it. You believe, of course, that television is the future.
Absolutely.
But this another possible contradiction, perhaps you could explain it. You demand that we know a great deal about word-based culture, and yet you celebrate television in the face of all the evidence that shows us that young people's attention spans are being destroyed. You watch a kid after 2 hours of television, they're in this zombie alpha state. They are in no condition to read the great classics that you say should provide a foundation for intelligent living. How can you do both?
This is why I believe that the schools have to remain logocentric. They have to remain epilogue, word-based. Okay, we need what the kind of school training that I had. When my mother came over from Italy to America at age 6, she didn't know a word of English, and she had for 100 years there were the schools that were keyed to Americanize the immigrants, and they were basic. It was basic education, and I think that's absolutely necessary to retain that. One half of our brain is the logocentric side. The other half is the side that is open toward television and toward rock music. And I'm unusual in my ability to see that there are different parts of the brain. Both need development. It's Apollo and Dionysus. Both gods must be honored. All right?
At the same time?
Well, I'm opposed to taking television into the schools. We don't need that. It is obscene. Our entire generation now is produced by television. We're not going to teach television to those who already know television. All right? We must teach the past. I absolutely believe in teaching history, archaeology, comparative religion.
This is heresy, you realize, because this station produces a great deal of educational material on television that it goes right into the classrooms. And it's supposed to be doing a lot of good.
I don't think that it's a good idea. No, I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I think that we should use the school time for the old-fashioned kind of book-based education, because I think that allows me to be so original. It allows me to have so much creative free play, to be able to go back and forth between the old and the new. But I think it is the future. Television is the future. Universal reality of the future will be television, like Star Trek.
Well, it certainly allows you to draw from various references, enormous amounts of references beyond Murphy Brown.
No, it's not just that. It's different parts of the brain are being developed. I see that the 60s were all about expanding your consciousness to the fullest. I believe there are all kinds of uncharted areas of the brain which my generation falsely used drugs to get to. I think you can use rock music and television to expand the brain without drugs.
I wonder if it's true. I worry about kids who watch too many hours of television today, and you can't stop them, it seems. But you didn't grow up on television. You weren't weaned on the glass teat.
No, absolutely. But you see, the thing is that they have a sense of community, all right? They really do. They have an international perspective now, and they have a kind of sophistication that is quite better than the parochialism of the pre-television era.
One of the things that has really gotten you into the hottest possible water has been your attacks on contemporary ideas about sexuality and how men and women should be treating one another. I want to go back, let's say a century and a half, okay? When we're talking about sexual personae, and much of the argument that we're going to try to condense 500 pages into however many minutes it takes. You say, for example, that the Marquis de Sade is the least read important major Western writer in the canon, if he's even in the academic canon. Why is that? Why is he important? Why should we pay attention to this side?
Well, you see, what I'm saying is that we are still in the age of Romanticism, and that for every idealism, you need the opposing voice to puncture the false hopes. Right? And so first there was Rousseau.
Yeah, tell me about Rousseau and Romanticism. What does that mean?
First, Rousseau believes that we are born good. All right, he's going against Christianity here, which believes we are born with a propensity toward evil. All right, so anything bad in us, for Rousseau, is coming from corrupt society. We have to get back to nature. Now, I'm saying that he was answered in France by Sade, who showed that yes, let's get back to nature, but nature is filled with aggression and violence. All right, and so the same thing I think happened in English literature. That is, Wordsworth followed Rousseau. Nature is good. We are all born benevolent. We're benevolent creatures, and he's answered by Coleridge in his vampire tales and so on, or in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, where you see all these like slimy things coming out of the sea, which shows the reality of nature. So I think we're still in this 200 years later. Feminism is going off toward the Rousseauist or Wordsworthian view that we're born good, and sex is this wonderful thing over here, and aggression is something over there that's nasty. Therefore, anything like rape and battering, those things are coming from the patriarchy, like that. You see, it's absurd. I'm saying that sex and aggression are fused. We're very complex creatures, and sexuality is a dark power that feminism is being totally simplistic about.
Okay, so you say that the feminists blame the patriarchy.
Yes, patriarchy. Meaningless word. Big, fat, meaningless word. Patriarchy. It only applies to Republican Rome, and that's it.
I'm a bit confused about the system, about who's blaming the system here, and what use is the system?
All of American feminism blames the system for everything, okay? It's in a passive whining mode, okay? I'm a 60s social activist. I believe that when there is injustice, we must remedy it. We must take action. But we are not going to solve all the problems between the sexes by passing more rules and regulations. And I'm a radical libertarian. I believe we have no business getting into the dating game. No authority figures should be questioning people about what happened on a date. And feminism is being utterly reactionary and puritanical. No always means no. Nonsense.
I'm going to get to no means no in a second, but first of all, you say you're a logocentric person. You enjoy words. You understand the power of words, I presume.
Half my brain is logocentric.
A lot of the feminist drive has been to try to make language possibly more egalitarian, that it does not presume. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Stalinism.
There are very good arguments to say that the word chairman fixes in a young person's mind the idea of a chairman, not a chairwoman.
This comes from
that's
ignorance of etymology.
Well, you want to talk about that, or the word Ms., or the entire panoply of suggestions that the politically correct have come
Ms.
up
was
with?
good. That's it.
Oh,
but not chairperson.
Put that on the record.
No,
Ms. was good.
Ms. was good because you see, of course, in Italy, you're called signora if you're an older woman, or madame in France and so on. We didn't need something that didn't make reference to a married state in English. We have that. That's it. I absolutely think chairperson is ugly and hideous. Man is a generic term referring to both sexes. It's ignorance of etymology.
Well, language changes. Etymology is valid. I think we should all study Latin and Greek, but things do metamorphose and they evolve.
I'm part of that. I have created many, many new words and terms. I'm part of the revolution of language, but I hate Stalinism, okay, when applied to language. I hate these harridans, humorless, like going over every part of our life with their notepads and so on and so forth, and my feminism predates theirs, okay? I'm on the record as a feminist when I was a child in America in the 1950s, okay? So I have good credentials for deploring the excesses of current feminism.
Well, one of the things that's at work here is that a lot of people don't think that the feminist struggle, is fun, and they want to be serious about it because it's a serious matter.
These are people, okay, who are seeking a religion, okay, because the sexual relations are basically a comedy, not a tragedy. I think it is absolutely deplorable to give young women the sense that their heritage is nothing but victimization. We can't go on like this endless recitation of atrocities and horrors that feminism has become.
Tell me something about the pagan roots of Catholicism. Your writing is, I would say, obsessed with the thrill of paganism. What is? I mean,
yes.
Let me get to you celebrate it for its Dionysium continuum of pleasure pain. So you loved Robert Mapplethorpe, for example, who you thought that brought that out in his photographs.
Right.
It's pansexuality and so on. So I do envisage this scene out of the Doors movie, everybody naked around the bonfire.
Oh no! But that's a misunderstanding. You see, I'm saying that on the contrary, that paganism was much more accurate about nature. That it's not Dionysian fun and games. My famous phrase: "The Dionysian is no picnic," and this is what I say. All right. I think I'm one of the first to say that the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, is indeed more pagan than Christian, and that Martin Luther was correct in seeing a drift away from primitive Christianity in the medieval church. So I'm saying that. I mean, I know when I was a tiny child in the Italian church, I didn't identify at all with Jesus and Saint Joseph and all those mild-mannered people. The creche scene. I thought, what is this with the straw and the animals? Now I identify with the Magi, okay, with the multiracial Magi with their beautiful costumes. It was only later I realized they were pagan astrologers, and that already early on I was picking up the residual paganism in the Roman Church. Saint Sebastian, the beautiful boy with arrows. I mean, this was my obsession. I was a tiny child staring. I mean, I never looked at Jesus. Jesus never interested me whatever.
But having said that, you were attracted to the martyrology, the blood, the sex.
Yes.
Who was the martyr whose breasts were served up on a
Saint
platter?
Agatha.
Zubaran made a magnificent portrait.
Yes, and Saint Lucy with her eyeballs on a platter. I was
go.
looking at this from earliest childhood.
What does it mean to be attracted to that? We're all attracted to it because that is what, a recognition of the dark side.
Yes, the fact that our physical experience is this continuum of pleasure-pain, that is not possible once you open the door towards sex. As my generation 60 in all of the storm of nature, it is extremely turbulent. I'm saying that part of this fetish that current feminism has with rules and regulations is it's a vain attempt to stem the storm of nature, and that we can study nature better, what it really is, by studying Blake, by studying the Romantic writers. It's for 200 years we've been trying to come to terms with nature. It's very complex.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, it is complex.
And sex and nature are completely intertwined in each other. You cannot understand anything about sex until you study nature. But you see, feminism in the last 20 years is obsessed with social constructionism. It believes that everything that we are sexually is coming from environmental pressures. It's utterly naive.
Which brings us back to Sinead O'Connor, whose big theme is child abuse. All right? It all comes from child abuse.
In the case of Sinead O'Connor, child abuse was justified.
Okay, but look, this is very important because you are a bullish, talkative. You're aggressive.
Yes.
Not everybody can be that way.
I'm a good role model for that reason.
Okay, very good. So you answered the question of self-esteem, right?
Yes, that's I certainly do. There's no self-esteem problem here. Here it is.
But
yes.
Is it not unreal and a little cruel to expect everybody to be as you? Is this not like you are the universe according to your theory?
No. I'm a teacher.
I don't think that everybody can manage.
I'm sorry. I'm a teacher for 22 years. Okay, I'm a wonderful role model for young women. I have inspired 2 whole generations of young women. All right, I'm out there actively. I can see what they need, the young women, and they certainly don't need more complaining and not more sermonizing of the Sinead O'Connor kind. Oh my God, I hate this. I hate this, like carrying on in this humorlessness like a robot. Oh, I despise her.
I think you're very funny when you say this, and I think there's a serious side to it too. But there is a missing link, and it has to do with tenderness. It has to do with understanding.
I'm an
that people.
I'm an Aries woman. Okay,
you're an Aries woman. There's 12 signs in the zodiac. Now look, here's.
I'm at war. You understand? Feminism is at war right now. Tenderness is for later.
Here's a picture, a doorway from Pompeii.
Oh, yes.
This marvelous picture. I'm trying to find the camera. Sorry.
Yes,
I'm going to read your people. Now, this is a panel of a travertine from Pompeii, carved for good luck, with a phallus and the phrase "Hic habitat felicitas," which means
here lives happiness.
There you go. Is this the way you see Spielberbia transforming? Is this how you'd like to see it? That we have a bold acknowledgement of sex.
Well,
on a
you
daily
see,
basis?
the thing is that these fertility images had a connection with the countryside. Once we were living closer to nature, the problems that we are suffering from now in Europe and North America are that we are industrialized and we've drifted from our contact with animal life, with mating behavior in the barnyard and so on, and with the seasons. All right, we're completely cut off from nature. The 60s were all about trying to get back to nature. These images you see, which obviously the conventional feminists would see as phallocentric, it's absurd. It has to do actually with the energy and the dynamism of nature. And I'm simply trying to bring in my work back a consideration of the fact. Actually, I've been influenced by Hinduism very strongly from the 60s.
Onwards and upwards. All I can say to viewers is you got to read more. Read more of everything. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you.
Sex, Art and American Culture by Camille Paglia is available from Random House, Canada.